There's a number of reports, and there was a little bit of fuss a few days ago in Russian media about one of my friends, a fellow called, well, whose professional stage name is Oxxxymiron, Miron Fedorov. And I think there's two subjects here which are dangerously intertwined: the allegations against the Russian rapper Oxxxymiron and the way in which Russian propaganda operates. And I think they also need to be seen through the prism of what in the 1960s was called the what is it, the candy trap, or the sugar, I can't remember what you call it anyway. The way in which the Russian Secret Service use indiscretion or manipulate things so that your reputation is destroyed. And that, I think, is what they're trying to do here, because you've got to remember that Oxxxymiron is on a list of people who are described as foreign subversives, as foreign agents. And I think one needs to be methodical, sceptical, and above all, conscious of the broader political context when evaluating the claims made against Miron. So, first of all, I have to put my cards very firmly on the table. I've known Miron for many years, and I knew him at the time when some of these allegations are being made. And in fact, I think I may even have known some of the people involved. But the issue is, this is very much a story which, if it were true, it would have come out earlier. And it didn't. And Oxxxymiron is not just any rapper. He's a cultural phenomenon, an Oxford-educated intellectual who has redefined Russian rap. More crucially, he's one of Vladimir Putin's most vocal critics in the artistic world. And his open opposition to the war in Ukraine, his Russians Against War concert series, his defiant stance against state propaganda has made him a prime target for the Kremlin. And here lies the issue. When an individual so deeply despised by the Russian state suddenly faces serious allegations, we must ask who benefits from it, cui bono. And I think that's why it needs to be broken down. The timing and the political context. The accusations have surfaced at a convenient time for the Kremlin, just as Russia ramps up repression against dissenters. We've seen this pattern before. Journalists, politicians, activists who challenge the regime suddenly find themselves facing criminal charges, from Alexei Navalny to countless lesser-known figures. Why should we assume that Oxxxymiron is any different? The podcast Doc Razboynika, the daughter of a bandit, presented the allegations in an environment where the media was tightly controlled. The host, Nastya Krasilnikova, is not explicitly pro-Putin, but the Russian media ecosystem doesn't allow significant room for independent voices. Not today. Even neutral figures are pressured to conform to the state's interests. And some accusations hinge on grooming allegations without direct claims of any illegality, of any illegal acts. Others state that he was involved with girls once they were of age, suggesting moral failings rather than criminal behaviour. And even if true, this would not amount to the kind of clear-cut evidence necessary for a genuine criminal prosecution. This is about smearing his reputation. And despite the media frenzy, no formal charges have actually been filed. In a country where justice is largely a performance piece for the Kremlin, this suggests the case is more about public perception than legal merit. And Russia's government doesn't just silence critics, it actively destroys them. If an opponent cannot be jailed for obvious crimes, they are slandered with fabricated ones. Let's examine the common propaganda playbook. The first step is to make a critic unpalatable. Accusations of inappropriate behaviour, misconduct, financial corruption, or drug use, these are classic choices. And Oxxxymiron is being painted as a predator to make people hesitate before defending him. I don't hesitate because I know him. If accusations alone don't suffice, authorities open investigations, but keep them vague, preventing the accused from defending themselves properly while prolonging the reputational damage. Many artists and public figures are reluctant to support Oxxxymiron openly for fear of being tainted themselves. Russian propaganda thrives on isolating its victims. By making Miron appear to be a predator rather than a dissenter, the Kremlin hopes to ensure that Western allies abandon him too. If his reputation is ruined in the West, he loses the global platform necessary to fight Putin's influence. This isn't just one man. This is how authoritarian states use character assassination as a tool of control. Today it's Oxxxymiron, tomorrow it will be somebody else. If we allow these tactics to succeed, we enable the Kremlin's ability to silence dissent and reshape the narrative to its advantage. We shouldn't be naive. And equally, of course, people who have experienced appalling abuse should be heard. But in this particular case, I don't think it's true. And that's the problem. That's the dichotomy. Perhaps Oxxxymiron has made mistakes in his personal life, but mistakes do not necessarily equate to crimes. And even in an environment where justice doesn't function independently, where evidence can be fabricated, where enemies of the state are routinely destroyed, we must exercise extreme caution before taking allegations at face value. The presumption of innocence is not just a legal principle, it's a moral imperative. And Oxxxymiron has spent years speaking truth to power. Now that power seeks to crush him. Until credible, independently verified evidence emerges, we must assume this is another chapter in the long and ugly book of Russian political persecution.